Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling something pretty fascinating, something I'm sure a lot of you have wondered about,
hmm
getting clean drinking water straight from the air. We've got some really cool sources to work with.
Oh, yeah.
You sent us this academic paper about atmospheric water generation, AWG.
Right.
And then, to make things even more interesting, we've also got a first-hand account from a homeowner who actually had these source hydro panels installed.
Wow. So we've got the theory and the practice. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's a real-world deep dive into this whole water from air thing.
I love it.
Okay, so before we get too deep into the sciencey stuff, I have to share something the homeowner said that just blew my mind.
All right. Lay it on me.
So apparently, the water that comes out of these hydropanels is so pure, it actually tastes weird.
Really?
Yeah, they have to add a mineral pack to make it taste like, normal water.
That's interesting. Well, it kind of makes sense when you think about it.
How so?
Well, AWG systems, they basically mimic nature's own condensation process. Think
Oh,
about it like when dew forms on grass overnight.
okay, yeah.
It's the same principle. These systems cool the air down, force the water vapor to condense into liquid, and boom, you've got super pure water.
I get it. But still, I'm picturing myself with a glass of water that tastes like a science experiment.
Well, hopefully with that mineral pack, it tastes a bit more normal.
Yeah, hopefully. But okay, here's another question. The homeowner lives in San Diego.
Right.
What about folks in drier climates? Can you really conjure water out of thin air in the middle of a desert?
That's the amazing thing about this technology. AWG can work in surprisingly dry conditions. The homeowner even mentioned their system works fine as long as there's at least 10% humidity.
10%. That's it.
Yeah. And think about it, the company that makes these panels is based in Arizona.
Oh, true. Arizona's not exactly known for its lush rainforest.
Exactly, they wouldn't be there if the tech couldn't handle it.
So even a little bit of humidity is enough to get this thing going. That's pretty wild.
It is. It's all about tapping into that unseen resource, and that's where AI comes into play.
Oh, okay, here we go, the AI angle. The paper mentioned AI as being crucial for these systems.
It's not just about extracting water, it's about doing it smarter, more efficiently.
Okay, hold on. My learner brain needs some specifics here.
Sure.
How does AI actually make these systems better?
Imagine an AI system that's like a super weather forecaster, constantly analyzing all this data, humidity, temperature, wind speed,
Okay.
and it uses all that to predict the absolute best times to collect water. So when conditions are perfect, your system kicks into high gear, you get maximum water with minimal energy wasted.
So the AI is basically doing all the thinking, making sure we get the most bang for our buck, both in terms of water and energy.
Exactly. It's about optimization, and that has ripple effects. It's good for your wallet and the environment.
I like the sound of that. Less money on the bills, less impact on the planet. Are there any other AI tricks we should know about?
Well, both the paper and the homeowner touched on something called predictive maintenance.
Okay, what's that?
Think of it as an AI doctor for your system. It's constantly monitoring data from sensors.
Oh, right. The homeowner mentioned an app that shows their system status.
Exactly. So if something's starting to wear out, the AI knows before you do, alerts you in advance so you can replace it before it breaks and causes downtime.
No more surprise breakdowns or scrambling for repairs at the last minute.
Ideally, no, but the benefits go beyond maintenance.
Oh, tell me more.
This is where it gets really interesting. The academic paper talks about AI optimizing energy consumption.
Okay.
So it's tweaking things like fan speed and cooling temperature based on the weather conditions in real time, using as little energy as possible without sacrificing water production.
So it's fine-tuning everything behind the scenes 2047.
Yeah, pretty much. That can have a massive impact on your energy bill and your carbon footprint.
It's like having a super efficient, eco-conscious water wizard working for you around the clock.
I like that analogy. A water wizard. I'll have to remember that one.
Feel free to use it. But, okay, going back to the homeowner's experience for a second. They did mention that these panels could be a bit noisy.
Ah, yes.
They even have a quiet mode, but it also lowers water production.
Right, right.
So is noise a big concern with these systems? I'm just imagining a Chicha air conditioner running nonstop.
Well, noise is definitely something to consider, especially with the models that use fans for air circulation.
Yeah, makes sense.
But like the homeowner said, technology is constantly improving. Newer models are being designed with noise reduction in mind.
So those whirring fans might become a thing of the past.
Hopefully, yes. But there's another challenge they mentioned that we should talk about. Freezing temperatures?
Oh, right. They said that was a major issue.
Yeah, unfortunately, most systems have to go into a kind of hibernation mode when it gets too cold outside.
To prevent damage,
Exactly. So that's a big hurdle for people in colder climates.
for sure. But even with those limitations, this whole water from air thing seems pretty mind-blowing. Where else could we use this technology? I mean, beyond just homes.
That's where it gets really exciting. If we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the applications are vast.
Like what?
Well, the paper outlines a bunch of possibilities, starting with what the homeowner's doing, using it for residential purposes. But then you've got disaster relief. Imagine being able to airlift these systems into a disaster zone and provide clean water without having to rely on damaged infrastructure.
Wow, that's incredible. It could be a game changer in emergency situations.
Right, and it doesn't stop there. They could be used for military operations in remote areas, even industrial applications.
So we're talking about a potential solution for a whole range of challenges, not just a cool gadget for homeowners.
Exactly. And let's not forget the environmental impact.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
If we can reduce our reliance on bottled water and lessen the strain on traditional water sources,
These are already under a lot of stress.
yeah, exactly. That could have a huge positive impact on the planet.
Okay, so to sum things up, it seems like AI could be the key to unlocking the true potential of AWG, making it more efficient, reliable, and adaptable to all sorts of situations.
I think that's a great summary.
But we've still got those challenges to overcome, especially with the cold weather and noise.
Absolutely, but the technology is evolving rapidly, and what we're seeing today is just the tip of the iceberg.
So the future of water might literally be in the air, huh? It's pretty exciting to think about where all of this could lead.
It is, and it makes you realize that even something as basic as water can be reimagined and revolutionized with a little ingenuity and innovation.
Okay, I feel like my brain is officially overflowing with information, but before we dive into part 2 of our deep dive, let's take a moment to connect all of this back to you, our listener.
Yeah, let's bring it down to earth a bit.
We've thrown a lot of information your way, but now it's time to think about what it all means for you personally.
Let's make it personal.
You know what really stuck with me from the homeowner's story? It wasn't just the tech itself. It was why they decided to go for these hydro panels in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
They were worried about water quality. Yeah. And they were concerned about potential shortages. It really hits home, you know? Like, these aren't just abstract problems. They're things people are dealing with right now.
It's a great point. It's easy to talk about the water crisis as this big global thing,
Right.
but it's made up of all these individual stories and concerns, just like the homeowners. And it's not just about those dramatic pictures of dried up lakes we see on the news.
Right,
We're
exactly.
talking about stressed agricultural systems, potential for conflict over resources, even compromised sanitation in some areas.
Yeah, it's a multifaceted problem, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where this whole AI-powered AWG idea starts to feel less like a cool gadget and more like a potential solution to some really big problems.
Absolutely.
I mean, if the homeowner can have enough water for their whole household just from these panels, what if we scaled that up?
Right. What if
Could you imagine entire communities becoming more self-sufficient, less reliant on those traditional water sources that are already struggling to keep up?
it's a pretty compelling vision, isn't it?
It is. It kind of feels like science fiction, to be honest.
A little bit, yeah.
But the fact that we're having this conversation with real-world examples is pretty amazing.
It is. It's like we talk about water as something we have to get from somewhere else.
Yeah.
But AWG is like, nope, we can make it right here.
Okay, I do have to play devil's advocate for a second.
Joe, go ahead.
The homeowners seemed happy with the system, but they also mentioned those issues, the noise and the freezing.
Right.
Is this tech really ready for everyone, or are we still in that early adopter phase?
I think it's a bit of both, honestly.
Okay.
AWG isn't just a theory anymore. It's being implemented, improved, refined every day.
Yeah.
The homeowner's experience is great because it shows us both the benefits and the challenges that come with actually living with this tech.
Right, it's not all sunshine and roses.
Exactly. But that's how innovation works. You learn, you adapt, you make things better.
And speaking of making things better, the homeowner did mention the company's working on quieter models, and they're trying to solve that freezing problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to see that they're not just sitting back and saying, good enough.
It's crucial for AWG to really take off. It can't just be effective. It's got to be convenient, affordable, adaptable to different environments.
Totally. Okay, so thinking about our listener, let's make this practical.
Okay.
What should someone be thinking about if they're even a little bit intrigued by this tech? We talked about cost, those limitations, but what else should be on their radar?
Maintenance.
Ooh, good point.
People don't always think about that, but it's important.
Yeah.
Even with AI doing some of the work, these are complex systems.
No,
You need to understand what it takes to keep it running, both in terms of time and money.
like, imagine having to call a specialized technician every time something goes wrong.
Exactly. That could get old fast no matter how pure the water is.
For sure. It's like with those solar panels,
Mm-hmm.
you're not just buying the panels themselves, you're buying into a whole new way of thinking about energy and all the upkeep that goes with it.
That's a great analogy. It's an investment, not just financially, but in terms of your time and effort.
Exactly. And there's that learning curve, too.
Oh, yeah.
You need to learn how the system works, how to troubleshoot, all that stuff.
Right.
The homeowner mentioned having an app for their hydro panels.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of user-friendly approach is going to be key.
Absolutely. It needs to be accessible to everyone, not just tech wizards.
Makes me wonder what other cool features they might come up with. Maybe AI-powered water taste customization, a sparkling water setting.
Haha, now you're getting into my territory. I love those futuristic ideas.
Okay, maybe I got a little carried away.
It's fun to think about the possibilities. But let's not forget the bigger picture here.
Right.
While individual homeowners adopting this is great, the real potential is in those larger scale applications.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Imagine, like, entire housing developments, office buildings, hospitals, all generating their own clean water.
Wow, that's a whole other level. We could seriously reduce our dependence on those traditional water sources.
Exactly. And those sources, as we've discussed, are already under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like those futuristic cities you see in movies, self-sufficient, running on water from the air instead of some crazy power source.
Haha, I love that image. It might sound far-fetched, but it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility.
It's exciting to think about how this tech could reshape our cities, make them more resilient, especially with climate change and all that.
It's about rethinking our relationship with water.
Right.
Instead of seeing it as this finite resource we have to constantly move around and manage,
Yeah.
AWG is like, hey, the air around us is an abundant source. Let's tap into that.
Talk about a paradigm shift. Okay, before we get too lost in those futuristic daydreams, let's bring it back down to earth.
Good idea.
We've covered a lot from the nitty-gritty of how AWG works to those big potential impacts, but I think it's always good to zoom back in and think about the personal side of things.
Absolutely. Technology is great, but it's only as good as its ability to actually improve people's lives.
Exactly. So, dear listener, what questions are running through your mind right now? If you were thinking about AWG, what would be your biggest concerns? Are you excited by the potential, or are those limitations holding you back?
There's no right or wrong answer here. It's about figuring out what matters most to you.
And that's why those personal stories, like the homeowner's experience, are so valuable. They give us a glimpse into what it's actually like to live with this technology, the good and the bad.
Sometimes the most important insights come not from research papers, but from the everyday experiences of people who are already using this stuff.
I love that. Okay, so with that in mind, let's shift gears for a second and talk about another resource you wanted to share.
Oh, yes. If this deep dive has gotten you curious about different ways to solve water scarcity, I highly recommend checking out the SciShow video on desalination.
Oh, yeah, desalination. That's where they take the salt out of seawater. Right?
Exactly.
I remember learning about it in school, but it always seemed like a really energy-intensive process.
It used to be, yeah.
Okay.
But technology has improved a lot. Newer desalination methods are much more efficient and cost-effective.
Interesting.
It's definitely worth learning more about, especially if you want to understand all the options we have for tackling this growing need for water.
I'll make sure to include a link to that video in the show notes for everyone to check out.
Great idea.
And as always, we encourage you to keep learning, keep asking questions, keep exploring this amazing world of science and tech.
The more we understand these innovations, the better prepared we'll be to make good decisions about our future, both individually and as a society.
Well said. Okay, so we've been on quite a journey today. Started with this almost magical idea of getting water from the air, explored the science of AWG, talked about AI, even took a little detour into the world of desalination.
It's all connected.
It is. And through it all, we've been thinking about you, the listener. How does this knowledge empower you to make a difference?
Because at the end of the day, it's not just about accumulating information, it's about using that information to create positive change.
And sometimes that change starts with a simple question, a spark of curiosity, a willingness to look beyond what you already know and explore something new.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we'll leave you with this. What will you do with the knowledge you've gained today? Will you just file it away as an interesting fact, or will it inspire you to take action, learn more, become part of the solution?
The choice is yours.
And that, dear listener, is the true power of knowledge. Phew. I got to say, after all that, I feel like I'm the one who needs a tall glass of water.
Haha, I hear ya. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really have. From the science of how it all works to the AI stuff to even talking about desalination, we've covered a lot.
We have, but it all comes back to that one essential thing, water.
Yeah, it's so easy to take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
But like we've seen today, having access to clean water, that's a huge challenge, not just for some people, but for everyone. And it's only going to get tougher, right?
It's a global issue, and it's not going away anytime soon.
That's why all these innovations we talked about, like AWG and the AI stuff, they feel so important,
They represent a real shift in how we think about water.
Right. It's not just about managing what we've got. It's about finding new ways to actually create more clean water.
Exactly.
It's like instead of just trying to divide up a shrinking pie, we're figuring out how to bake a bigger one.
I like that analogy. It's about taking control, becoming more resilient, making sure everyone has what they need.
We've talked about the big picture a lot, but I keep thinking back to those personal stories.
The homeowner, yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost in the abstract, but those stories make it real.
For sure. Hearing about someone actually using this tech, seeing how it affects their life, it brings it all home.
And it reminds us that innovation isn't just happening in some lab somewhere.
It's happening in people's homes, in their communities.
Exactly. And that's where the power of knowledge really comes in. It's not just about knowing the facts. It's about using them to make choices, to take action.
To make a difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I guess we just want to leave you with a few thoughts.
Sounds good.
First, remember that this is just the beginning. This whole field is constantly changing. There are new discoveries all the time, so stay curious, keep learning.
Never stop exploring.
And don't underestimate what you can do.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's making changes in your own life, supporting the right companies, or just talking to people about these issues. Every little bit helps.
Absolutely.
And lastly, remember, the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create together.
Well said.
By being open to new ideas, challenging the way things are, and working together, I really believe we can build a world where everyone has access to clean water.
I'm with you on that.
So thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. We hope it's left you feeling, I don't know, maybe a little more hopeful, a little more empowered.
And a little bit thirsty for more knowledge.
Always. Because the future of water is in our hands, and it's definitely a future worth fighting for.